What's up, African Fight Fam? It's your boy JB back again with another episode of the African Fighters Podcast. This one is a classic, guys. We have a full house. It's really packed. And, well, in the hierarchy of popularity and the number of social media following, I'm going to introduce the first person. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Zimbabwe, ladies and gentlemen, UFC welterweight. Our brother, the biggest supporter of African fighters and the builder of boreholes. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Temba, the answer. Gorimbo. Temba, my
What's
brother,
up, my
thank you
brother?
so much for
I'm
accepting to
not the
do
builder
this.
of balls, but I take that name, no problem.
All right, okay. Next, with regards to the number of followers on social media, ladies and gentlemen, from London, England, he's a Nigerian brother. He is quite popular in the community of African MMA. Ladies and gentlemen, host of the Fight Week podcast and the Fight Week YouTube channel. It's Ola. Ola, what's up, my brother? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, man, I'm doing good, man. Thank you very much for having me on, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be on with everybody on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Awesome. And guys, the last and certainly the least number of followers on social media, ladies and gentlemen, it is the poster boy of bad internet connection, ladies and gentlemen, from Lagos, Nigeria, Toby Aderemi. What's up, my brother? You're right.
You try. This one enter. Let's go on.
All right. There he is, and boom, here we are, guys. All right, today packed show. We've got a lot to discuss. We're going to talk about the biggest news that came out for African fighters this week, which is Kamaru Usman being added to UFC 294. We are going to talk about the African fighters that fought last week, and then we'll talk about a few things around here and there, and then we would also talk about Temba Gorimbo a bit, so we hear from him. All right, without any further ado, guys, I'll try to, because we've got a lot of questions, a lot of topics to go around. I'll try to be as quick as we can so we can get out of here. And yes, if you are in the comment section, please feel free. If you're in the live chat, feel free to throw in some comments, and we could get into that. And a big shout out to our patron, Christopher Graham. Did a good job with the questions. I didn't get to add any questions. It's basically a copy and paste from Patreon for this one. So thank you, Christopher Graham, for these questions. Amazing stuff. All right. Last week we just did. Then all of a sudden, bam! Paulo Costa was posted that he had an elbow surgery, and a lot of people were thinking that this fight would probably not happen. But Paulo constantly said that it's gonna happen. He went to Yas Island or Abu Dhabi, that is, and got in touch with a UFC doctor, and they diagnosed him, and apparently he needs another surgery. So that means that fight fell off. And the UFC was thrown into a limbo trying to get a replacement fighter. There were rumors that Kamaru Usman was going to be the replacement fighter in middleweight. I could remember Gilbert Burns, who trains with Kamaru Usman, posted a video of Kamaru Usman in training, and he said he is getting ready. And that was a big hint, and I actually thought it was going to happen. And then boom, started with ESPN posting it, and then the UFC subsequently, and then we knew that Kamaru Usman is now officially out of Temba Gorimbo's weight class for the time being. And apparently he is going to make his middleweight debut.
Kamaru Usman is
also
middleweight.
Well, I think we'll talk about it, because among all of us, you are the only person that have met him. So I would ask you. Yes, so Kamaru Usman middleweight fight, 11 days notice. Hamza Chimaev, one of the biggest hype trains we've seen since Conor McGregor, in the midweight division. Both guys former welterweights. This is huge. So speaking about welterweight and what Kamaru Usman is by size, Temba Gorimbo, you've met him, you've sized him up. Temba, is Kamaru too small for middleweight?
He's not way bigger than me. That's one thing you must know. I'm taller than him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a little bit thicker. But when I met him, that's when I was still residing in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little bit smaller in size. But I think even now, currently, I'm bigger than him slightly, I think. But yeah, he's not a very big guy, but he's not a very small guy too. But yeah, man, look at his handle on Instagram. It's Usman 84 kgs, right? That means that
Mm-hmm.
man is designed to be fighting at middleweight. Um,
Mm.
so I think it's a good thing for Kamaru to go up there and fight at middleweight. I think he's gonna carry all the power. He's gonna be more powerful at middleweight than he was at welterweight. I think.
Mm. That is interesting. But let me ask Ola here. Ola, what was going through your mind when you saw that post basically a couple of days that blew our minds? Were you
Yeah.
thinking like, damn, this is the fight that we needed, or what was your thoughts at the time?
For one, we know that Kamaru's flirted with the middleweight for quite some time, and one of the only reasons he hadn't really been up there is because Easy had been champion over there, and he didn't want a situation where he was he was going to go over there and end up competing with Easy. But now that Easy is kind of out of the way, it's a bit more of open season and open waters. And Kamaru said that even me talking about going to middleweight, it doesn't mean I want to fight every middleweight that's up there. I'm going to cherry pick fights. And when we look at the current champion, who's at the middleweight champion, him and Kamaru, they do have history, and they've seen each other before. Albeit it was a while ago. Strickland is way, way, way more better than it was at the time when they first met. So it's gonna be interesting to actually see what Kamaru is going to display for people over there in the middleweight division. Now, when we're talking about Hamza is, like you said, probably the biggest hype train since Conor McGregor, and now both of these guys are going to be they're going to be fighting, and there's a rumor that whoever ends up winning this fight is going to get a chance to see Strickland. So it's a very, very interesting one, and
It's
I
not
think
a
we're
rumor.
intrigued on
It's
what.
not a rumor. Dana White, Dana White actually confirmed it. But
Right.
but with regards to that, Toby, I'll get to you in a second there. But with regards to that, Temba, do you think it's unfair to the guys in the middleweight for two welterweights to come into the middleweight division and fight for a number one contender show and come for the title shot, basically? Bearing in mind we have another African that is a clear-cut number one contender in Dricus.
Look here. Life is unfair. That's one thing you must understand, and also you must never feel like you're entitled or owed anything in the UFC. Um,
Mhm.
we all want to be champions in the UFC, and the UFC is a business. They have to do what matters first. What is going to put the business forward first. Them putting Kamza Chimaev versus this guy for the title, you have to look at it this way. They feel like, okay, cool, these guys are willing to take this fight on short notice, and these guys have got a popularity. Like they are more popular than let's say Dricus, right? Who we are talking about, that is the number one contender in the division. And that's the reality of what it is. Like it's about who's bringing. It's not about like the UFC is a very tricky pawn. I have come to understand this now
Mm.
that in the UFC you have to do what you are told to do in the UFC. You don't try to do what you feel like. In the UFC you do what you are told. No matter, you are not the only man that is bigger than the sport is Conor McGregor. Other than that, man, in the UFC, it's not same as EFC where if the promotion likes you, you will get what you want. Here in the UFC, brother, you are not entitled to anything. You can be number one contender in the UFC. I've learned this, and I hope I can also keep this lesson for my future. One
Mm.
thing in the UFC, it's a business. What they do is what suits the business in that time and moment, and they can shelf you. They will forget about you. They don't even like look at what they've been doing now. They've not been even mentioning Dricus' name in the interviews, and it's so sad because I know how hard it has been for Dricus to get to the title to where he is right now. He worked so hard. It's a difficult path. It is a very, very difficult path to get to be where he is number one, bro. Like many people dream and wish to be in that position. But my advice, if I have to give Dricus, is fight whoever they want him to fight next.
Mm.
Beat that guy, hopefully he gets the title shot after that. Because
So you
I
think you
I would suggest not posting and feel like you are owed anything, because the UFC
Mm.
also watches and sees those things when he's posting those things, and you cannot. I understand the love and things from supporters and stuff like that, but just be careful on what you post on the social media, because they watch and see those things, and the more you make them feel like, the more they want to point a gun at you. I feel like, and then they might
Mm.
just,
I think you are making, yeah, just for context, guys, Temba is making reference to, if you go on Dricos's story now, he's reposting every comment or every story or most stories that people talk about him being treated unfairly. So I kind of understand. And to be honest, in my own opinion, I think he is kind of being punished for saying no to a title shot,
that's
which there is no rule towards that. Because think about it, right? Kamza Chimaev versus Strickland is a way bigger fighter than Dricus versus Strickland. If it was Dricus versus Adesanya, then there's a different topic there. Kamza Chimaev, Usman versus Strickland 2 would be a way bigger fight than Dricus versus Strickland. So I kind of see from a business point of view, they probably think that they are doing the right thing. But I have a question with regards to where Dracos will be headed next, right? We all know that we've seen it many times in the UFC where there'll be a number one contender fight. And maybe the fight was a dud. It wasn't too exciting. There wasn't too much display. And then the UFC would just act like that didn't happen and just go with whoever is more exciting. Let's say maybe Usman goes out there and wrestles for 5 rounds and wins, right? And maybe wrestles and kind of like doesn't do too much damage, maybe a bit of a slugfest like that. Maybe the UFC will be like, maybe we go with Dricus. I don't know if that could happen, but let's assume let's look at it from Dricus' point of view. Would you stay and not fight and wait for your title shot, or would you fight the next guy they put in front of you? I think maybe what would probably happen is maybe Paulo Costa hails up and they'll be like, okay, Dracos, there's your fight night main event. Toby, would you agree with me?
Absolutely, absolutely. The truth is, right now, the ball is not really in his court yet. So I think he has to do exactly what Temba says he should do. I think he has to stay ready. There's a good chance that he might actually get a short notice fight too. The way the UFC is going right now, and everybody's just seeming to get injured, close to fight. I think the same thing he was complaining about happened with Aljo, and Aljo, who understands how the UFC works, just had to get in there and do the business for them. Um, so yeah, the big fight that will have sold him, sold so many pay-per-view tickets will have been
Yep. And there goes Toby. Push that boy bad internet connection.
Let me
I'm
just
just
add on
gonna get
on
him.
that for you there.
Yeah, yeah.
If I am Dricus, what's happening next month is the light heavyweight title, and I saw that he posted that he wants to fight to become a champion at middleweight and the light heavyweight. If I'm him, I'll
Mm,
put myself back in the good books by saying, can I be the backup fighter for
he's a
that
backup
fight?
fighter. Mm,
Yeah, like,
mm.
can I be the backup fighter for that fight? Then that
Yeah,
puts you
that's a good
back
one.
in the talks of being on the good side.
Being in the.
And because Dricus beats Alex Pereira,
Mm-hmm,
100%. I can tell you this. Dricus beats
mm-hmm,
Alex Pereira if Jiri ends up pulling out. Dricus can beat Jiri Prohaska. If I can tell you this,
mm,
he can beat Jiri Prohaska. Jiri Prohaska's ground game is not the best. And
mm,
I know Dricus, his ground game is very good. So I feel like he has a chance of becoming a champion this year if that
mm.
fight if somehow instead of doing all the other stuff, I would get ready and stay ready, because you're carrying that card is already carried by John Jones, so they don't need
Mhm,
any extra pay-per-view points from anybody.
mm,
So what you just do,
mm,
you put your cards, which is I think it's a good risk take thing, because at the end of the day you are putting yourself in the best position with the promotion as well. They say, hey, I understand what has happened, but can I put my can I carry my card
mm.
to the up division, because and
Yeah,
he
and to
can
be
beat both
honest,
those guys. I can guarantee
mhm,
you this.
and it's been in the light heavyweight. If push comes to shove and they be like short notice replacement, he doesn't need to cut too much weight. to make it in, to make the light heavyweight weight cut. All right, so before we go, just quickly brush into Islam versus Volk too. It's not just Kamaru Usman that accepted a big fight. This might not be a very popular fight in the United States, that Islam Makhachev versus Volk, but it's a crazy fight in the Middle East and also in down under New Zealand and Australia. But we saw the first fight, Islam versus Volk, which was